All right, y'all. Okay. So look, I've been trying to do this video for like a week. And the video is when, as y'all already see in the title, Piers Morgan had a interview with Steven Crowder. And you know that Steven Crowder doesn't really see eye to eye with Piers Morgan because of Alex Jones. Whereas Piers Morgan is still attacking the whole thing with Sandy Hook, that whole situation. Y'all know what's going on with that. Y'all go back and look that up on Alex Jones or Piers Morgan, or y'all can just look that up on Google or whatever, it's going to come up. But Piers Morgan got on Alex Jones. Even though Alex Jones was on Piers Morgan's show, Piers Morgan was talking crap about Alex Jones. So Steve Crowder was like, you tripping. This dude is American. You ain't showing no respect. So I know that there was an interview where Steven Crowder kind of got on Piers. He kind of called him like a fraud or something. It was something like that. So I want to watch this interview, and I want to see them go at it because I feel like it's going to be like respectful, but it's going to be like I'm not backing down. So let's watch this interview. I want to see what is being said because I've been trying to get this to y'all in a week, and I've been waiting to watch it.
Welcome back to Uncensored. Last week I criticised Elon Musk's decision to allow the massacre-denying conspiracy theorist Alex Jones to return to X, formerly Twitter. Some people weren't happy. They included the influential conservative personality Steven Crowder. This is what he had to say on his show, Louder with Crowder, about me.
This brings us to Piers Morgan's rules for me. He hosted Alex Jones on his very own program this year. Piers Morgan doesn't understand what freedom of speech is. Piers Morgan has also hosted Suhail Shaheen, the Taliban spokesperson. Jeez. Wahid Asif Shaita, an Islamist extremist leader. Jeremy Corbyn, the anti-Semitic Labour Party leader. Just Piers, stop it. I'm sorry. Fraud. There we go.
They call him a fraud.
Well, in the spirit of hosting very controversial people on my free speech platform, I'm now joined by Steven Crowder, who can call me a free speech hypocrite to my face. Mr. Crowder, good day to you. How are you?
Well, thank you, Piers. Merry Christmas. And let me say off the bat, I do actually appreciate about you. Your audience may not know how rare this is, that you do these interviews live, you don't chop them up, you actually have a discussion, and I've been advocating for that my whole life, so really, I appreciate it. Those are steps in the right direction.
Well, they are, and to be honest with you, the debate about what constitutes free speech and whether there should be limits and if there should be, what they are, I think is really interesting, and a lot of people have strong opinions about this, and I'm perfectly happy to be proven wrong, or to at least have a debate with someone who's got strong views that don't necessarily tally with mine. So I welcome you to the programme. Let's start with your assessment that I'm a free speech hypocrite. So articulate to me why you believe that.
I believe the word I used there was fraud.
You earlier used hypocrite.
Did I earlier? Okay, I don't remember saying it, but I'll take your word for it, and to some degree, I believe it. Look, I think that in hosting a show uncensored, and I can't see you, but I know you put up the very festive holly leaf on the globe there. It is incumbent upon you. You will say, I believe in the concept of free speech. Now, I'll be very clear in my definition of free speech. It's the constitutional definition of freedom of speech. All speech is permissible outside of a crime.
That's
we have
right.
very clear parameters,
right.
and these have been affirmed by the Supreme Court as to what that is. That's a proactive call for violence. The crime is not the speech. The crime is the action causing violence on purpose. Outside of that, everything is permissible. But for a show uncensored, and I know that you've said there's a difference between across the pond there, and obviously in the United States, we have a First Amendment that you don't. How would you define freedom of speech?
Well,
What is permissible?
I don't think we're as far apart as you think. I mean, you talk about the First Amendment not protecting, for example, crime. It's a little bit more complicated. For example, it doesn't protect you if you deliberately defame somebody. And my argument about Alex Jones in particular was that he's just been punished with over $1 billion fine in one of the biggest defamation cases in modern American history for deliberately telling lies about the families of the poor victims of the Sandy Hook massacre over a sustained period of time, which led to them getting direct harassment and other criminal activity. So I was joining all the dots there of his particular situation, and I concurred with Elon Musk's original view when he was asked about it when he first bought Twitter last year, which was he was not going to allow him back on. He's now changed his mind, but my opinion was based on the Constitution of the United States not protecting you if you are guilty of defamation.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna have to take the rounds out of that magazine from how loaded that question was, and so much misinformation there. And that's the beauty of the freedom of speech. You can say that, you can speak misinformation, and you have the right to. For example, saying he knowingly lied. Look, I'm not in the business of defending everything that Alex Jones has said, okay? But if you're going to say the 22 minutes out of 8,000 hours of broadcast time for which he apologized, acknowledged that he was wrong, constitutes what you are saying is proactively lying. That is a very dangerous precedent. It's not accurate.
Hang on, Stephen.
It's not accurate.
Stephen, he did deliberately lie for a sustained period of time, for years, about these families. He knew Sandy
Tell me how he deliberately lied.
He knew that.
Tell me how he deliberately lied.
And he was found to have deliberately lied.
Tell me how he deliberately lied.
And by the way, in his defense, he
tried... Tell me how he deliberately lied, please.
In his defense, he tried to play the First Amendment card, and it was rejected by the judge. Rejected.
Okay. Tell me how he deliberately lied, please.
Because he knew that it wasn't a hoax. He knew the massacre had happened.
Incorrect.
Let's listen to what he said.
That's incorrect.
Let's play what he said.
Hook, it's got inside job written all over it. Sandy Hook is a synthetic, completely fake, with actors, in my view, manufactured. I couldn't believe it at first. People just instinctively know that there's a lot of fraud going on. But it took me about a year with Sandy Hook to come to grips with the fact that the whole thing was fake.
Whole thing was fake, repeatedly. A series of different shows he did.
You still haven't answered. You still haven't answered. That doesn't prove that he knowingly lied. Anything. Look, Alex Jones is wrong about a lie.
You're a very
Alex
smart.
Jones is wrong about a lie.
Stephen, you and I disagree.
But he's also
Stephen, you and I disagree. Hang on. I'm going to respond to you. You and I disagree about many things. We agree about many too, right? But on this point, you're a very smart guy. I wouldn't question that for a moment. You and I both know Alex Jones knew that was not faked, Sandy Hook. You and I both know that.
So I have to spit the words out that you just tried to place in my mouth. I do not know that. I don't agree with the premise. And you have yet to prove it. Here's the beauty, though.
I don't have to prove it.
Even if you were to commit defamation, even if... No, it didn't. And even assuming that you don't discuss the caps with your audience, and I'm going to continue speaking as though we're having a dialogue, even assuming that you don't discuss the caps, that he would never pay out, the far lower settlement that they have decided they would allow, considering this will go to a superior court and will get thrown out, even if you allow all of those things, here's the beauty of the First Amendment. Here's the beauty of the First Amendment. Even if you at one point commit defamation, you still don't forfeit your right to speak going forward. You don't lose a fundamental human right.
I agree.
And that's not why he was banned from. That's not why he was banned from Twitter.
I
know that.
He was banned from Twitter. He was banned from Twitter for having a pop at some guy from CNN. I don't care about that. I'm more interested in why Elon Musk tweeted when he bought Twitter and was asked, will you bring back Alex Jones? He said, no, I won't allow somebody back on, having gone through the pain himself of a child dying in his own arms, one of his children. He wasn't going to allow someone who profited from the pain of dead children to be back on the platform. He then changed his mind, which he's allowed to do. He owns the platform. X is a private company owned by Elon Musk. He can do what he likes with it. But they also have a series of rules which are available on their website, which you can check about what is allowed and not allowed. And they will deplatform you if you transgress those rules. And my point to you is that...
I didn't know there were certain things that were allowed and weren't allowed on X. I thought it was... Because when you go in there, boy, X and got so wild to where I would be mindful about opening X, depending on where I am. So depending on where I am, I probably want to open up because they don't know what's going to pop up on there. So I didn't know there were rules on X, to be honest with you.
The situation with Alex Jones is that he was found guilty in an American court of defamation. And yes, it's entirely down to Elon Musk that he can bring him back. But I agree with the first version of Elon Musk's decision-making, not the second one based on a completely undemocratic poll he put on his own Twitter feed.
Well, I agree with you that it shouldn't be left to a democratic poll because the First Amendment is not subject to a vote.
Right. But you accept the First Amendment of the US Constitution has a number of things which are excluded from protection, whether it's child pornography, fraud, defamation. There's a whole list of things which you'll simply...
But that has nothing to do with speech.
No, but you're conflating...
PIERS.
But I think you've mischaracterized what I said then, because I've never said he hasn't got a right to say what he wants. He can say what he likes. I believe fundamentally in anyone's right to say whatever they want. The question is accountability. And the US Constitution, which you don't think I know anything about, but actually I know a lot about.
Also, for my people that believe in God, just know that every word, you have to answer for every word you say. So although it's permissible, doesn't mean that you should. So even though it's a free speech country, be mindful about some of the speech that you're speaking.
And I'm a huge...
I didn't say you don't know anything about it. I really don't believe it. I know that you have studied it.
In another clip from that same show you did, you basically said, I don't know much about the US Constitution because I'm not American. And that's fine. But I have lived and worked in America for 20 years. I have tried to really get a handle on the US Constitution. And on the issue of the First Amendment, it is a complicated thing. It's not as simple as saying you can say whatever you want. Well, it is, because it doesn't allow the unfettered free speech but with protection that you're suggesting it does.
It absolutely does.
It doesn't.
It absolutely does, barring, would you like me to explain, barring what I've already outlined? Actual criminal behavior calling for violence against other people. For example, Pierce, look,
but
you know that you have
defamation.
been, and I'm saying this in your defense. For example, you made your joke about being a two-spirited penguin, right? I thought it was cute. I think it was funny, and I understand the point that you were trying to make, okay? You have had people accuse you of creating violence against trans. You know that, and we know it's absurd. So who defines what is actually calling for violence, or if you
but here's
basically in a roundabout way maybe causing violence? No, unless you called for violence.
No, but you keep saying
you said
that
you were a two-spirited
penguin. But you keep saying that your only barrier on free speech is crime.
Yes.
And I keep reminding you that Alex Jones was found guilty of defamation, and that is one of the things that's not protected by the First Amendment.
No. It's not protected in you can have civil damages, and your First Amendment rights don't cease to exist. In other words, you can pay. You can pay the piper for what you have done in that individual instance. So if someone at some point, if someone accuses you of defamation, and let's say has a suit levied against you that actually, by God, is successful, let's say that, does that forbid you from speaking publicly thereafter?
No,
you don't lose it. It's a fundamental human right.
Not at all. But it does allow, I'm exercising my rights to free speech to say I think he shouldn't be allowed back on X, which was the position of the owner of X until last week. So my point is that Elon Musk has made two judgment calls about this. One I agreed with and one I didn't. And I'm exercising my free speech rights to say I don't agree with it.
You are. And I completely support your right to that. The problem is Elon Musk changed his mind in the face of new information. And if we want to have productive dialogues, we need to, you know what, this is one thing I often ask. And by the way, I think that none of this is a gotcha for Twitter clicks. I hope to God it's not. How often, when you were on CNN, or how often when you were on your morning show there in the UK, or how often do you see on any news network someone say, you know what, new information came out and I was wrong? And I say that because you've done it, and I appreciate it. You said, you know what, if I knew what I know now about the COVID vaccine, specifically that if you get the COVID vaccine, you cannot transmit it. If I knew that that was incorrect, I wouldn't have espoused the views that I did. I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think the problem that we have in today's society is not wanting to allow people to be wrong, to make mistakes. In the realm of comedy, look, good jokes and bad jokes come from the same place. Sometimes you have to risk something and it's not funny.
I agree
Sometimes
with you about all that.
have to express an opinion.
Yeah, but I agree with you about all that.
Sure.
I agree with that. I tell you, that's really the bedrock of this show. But I come back again to why I had a particular issue with the Alex Jones thing, is that unlike the other circumstances you're describing, in his case, he was found guilty of a serious defamation against the Sandy Hook families. He was fined over $1 billion. So far, he's not paid a dime of that money. And, you know, Elon Musk has made two calls on it. Like I said, the first one, I agreed with. I don't think that people like Alex Jones should be allowed an unchallenged, unfettered public platform to spew lies which are done deliberately, in my estimation, to spew lies.
Unchallenged?
Are
you out of your tree, sir?
Unchallenged.
It's a cesspool.
No.
Anyone can say anything they
People
like.
can reply to him, but no one can have a direct challenge to Alex Jones, like I did when he came on my show.
Of course they can.
Look, like you picked out, for example, that he came on my show, Jeremy Corbyn, Taliban spokesman, and so on. Yes, because in each of those cases, I put them through the mincer, right? And I'm prepared to have them on to give them a hard time and challenge them. You might agree or disagree with that, but they're all pretty volatile interviews. But I was able to challenge what I perceive to be their untruths. Right? I'll show you a clip of the Corbyn one to show you what I mean. Have a look at this.
You seem to be over-concerned with
anti-Semitism.
No, I did not.
Should Hamas stay in power? It's actually
Are you done yet?
It's actually a critical question.
Are you done yet?
It's a critical question.
Are you done yet?
No, it's the question.
Are you done yet?
Should they stay in power?
Are you done yet?
This country says they're a terror group. Do you agree? And should they stay in power?
Listen, I do not approve, support, or welcome Hamas.
Are you prepared to call Hamas a terror group?
Is it possible to have a rational discussion with you? Is it possible? Come on, answer that question.
You can't, can you?
You answer it.
No, it's my show. You answer my question. Now, the point of playing that clip, other than to entertain you, as I'm sure it did, is that, yes...
I hate that clip. I hate everything about that clip.
Why do you hate it?
I hate it because I don't like Jeremy Corbyn, but I think he's a bombastic prick, but I also think that you should have let him finish speaking. Why? Because then he would express bad ideas.
Yeah,
That's why I support freedom of speech.
But actually, in the end, I could tell very quickly he was never going to give an answer, and therefore we were in a game of cat and mouse, which went on so long that the viewer was left in no uncertain terms what his answer actually was. Because otherwise you just say Hamas are a terror group. It's not difficult. And in fact, 2 days later, he admitted Hamas are a terror group. That was his position. But only after I shamed him into doing it. So look, here's my question for you.
So that's it. So you want to shame people into agreeing with you?
No,
I would
not at
rather
all.
just let
Not
them
at all.
speak if they have bad
Not
ideas.
at all. I want to shame them into giving an honest opinion. What I will really lose my rag about, and I'm sure you must be the same, when people just obfuscate and don't give a straight answer to a straight, simple question, then I will go after them. If they give an honest answer, even if I don't agree with it, I respect that. And in fact, I think people who watch my show regularly will see that is my position, whether I agree with them or not. I have lots of people on that I don't really agree with. But I find the ones that I have respect for are the ones who give a straight answer to a straight question. So let me ask you a straight question. Let me ask you a straight question.
Sure.
David Duke, the former KKK leader, he's banned from Twitter. Elon Musk hasn't brought him back.
Right.
Should he be allowed to be back on X?
Throw that at me. Really? You just say, I want to ask someone a straight question. You have me here. I'm basically a specter. I don't appear on any... You want to ask me about David Duke?
Yes. Because he's banned from Twitter.
Should David Duke be allowed back on X?
Yes.
I'm not as familiar with David Duke as I am with Alex, which is why I was able to point out that you cannot prove that he knowingly lied about anything.
No.
If David Duke has called for the violence, look, if David Duke has called for the violence, actions of violence against minority groups, then no. If David Duke has espoused horrible points of view that can be refuted, by the way, not only by other people who are on X, but by the community notes on X, and on a platform where people are free to speak on both sides of the aisle, then yes. It doesn't mean that I think he's anything other than a racist prick.
So I'm trying to work out whether you...
Can I make one point?
Yeah.
Can I make one point that I think is very... This is really... And hopefully we can agree on this, because I actually disagree with you that Elon Musk can do whatever he wants with his own platform. It comes down to this. I think, and if you look at the historical record, I think it is far more dangerous for society to engage in a culture of censorship, of viewpoint discrimination, than it is to allow people to speak freely, barring the committing of violent crimes. I think that we see a far worse dystopia in our future if we allow the government and these big tech platforms to determine who can speak and who cannot. And we've seen some very clear examples of this. If you give me 30 seconds, let me lay this out for you. For example, I don't think they have the right to, for example, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Here's why. They benefit from Section 230. Now, I know you have a lot of fans in the UK. They may not be familiar with this. Let me explain what it means. They're basically treated like public utilities, meaning that they have immunity from liability for someone saying something on their platform. For example, AT&T here in the States can't ban you from their phone service because your racist Aunt Tilly drops an N-bomb after a few drinks at Thanksgiving. They're a public utility. These big tech platforms are treated as platforms where they are not legally liable for what is permitted, but that allows them to engage in viewpoint discrimination. And then there is no accountability. For example, the Hunter Biden laptop story, which we know, and this is why I make all references publicly available, because I want to be held to account, and I will be held to account, would have changed the election if the government was not, and when I say colluded, I mean Joe Biden, Jen Psaki, Kamala Harris, Karen Jean-Pierre, calling for the removal of Joe Rogan from Spotify, calling for the removal of vaccine scientists, by the way, of mRNA vaccine scientists from public platforms. If all information was allowed to be transmitted freely, like the platforms, as they are treated under our legal precedent here and Section 230, guess what? Donald Trump would be president. I'm saying this as a matter of record and fact. millions of people would not have gotten the mRNA vaccine, specifically men under 30, and lockdowns would have lasted days, weeks, not years. That is irrefutable, but you had the government and these platforms deciding which views were allowed and which views weren't. And I don't think I should be allowed, you should be allowed, and certainly not the government colluding with 5 companies who control over 90% of the information in the digital sphere. It is terrifying to me. So you may think I'm an absolutist. I think I'm reasonable.
No, I don't. I actually don't think that's unreasonable at all. In fact, I have written numerous columns about the outrage of the New York Post having that initial expose of Hunter Biden's laptop censored by Twitter, as it was then, for 2 weeks, right before the 2020 election. You know, I've said to Donald Trump to his face, never mind the stolen election bullshit you keep trying to pretend happened. I said, focus on that, because that probably swung the election, because it stopped the media investigating properly what was going on with Hunter Biden in Ukraine and what his father's involvement would be. I think that could have swung the election. So I absolutely agree with you.
Let me give you a funny story about it. And not only could it would have, according to Dr. Epstein. Do you realize? Now, I'm a comedian, right? This show, that's why I appreciate you said, hey, you got a chuckle from our segment. Some of it is tongue in cheek. And I appreciate that you recognize that and not try and use, you acknowledge that it's a joke, whether it's funny or not. So as a comedian, the host of a comedy show, Rudy Giuliani was on this show, and the first time the public ever saw Hunter Biden's laptop was on this show. He brought it up. He goes, I have the laptop here. The FBI came, they searched my offices. They took everything but the laptop. I go, wait. Is that the Hunter Biden laptop? He said, yes. Episode is banned. Suspended from YouTube. Think about that. Think about how terrifying that is. It was an accident.
It's wrong. It's wrong. Let me ask you, though, yesterday on your show, you appeared wearing a T-shirt saying Alex Jones was right, changed my mind. So my question is, what was he right about?
Oh, gosh, how much time do you have?
Well, are you talking about Sandy Hook?
No, I'm not talking about Sandy Hook. He said he was wrong about Sandy Hook.
Right.
He apologized for Sandy Hook.
When he was sued, he said he was
Eventually, but I'm saying obviously the shirt wouldn't be addressing that. If it's he says I was wrong, it would be awfully daft of me to wear a shirt saying he was right about something.
What are you alluding to then?
I'm alluding to, for crying out loud, if you talk about intelligence agencies spying on Americans, if you talk about what we've done with South American countries, as allowing the spread of STDs, for which Hillary Clinton apologized for, if you talk about nation building, where there have been underhanded deals with nations who don't have our best interests at heart, I mean, it's, take your pick. I don't believe that, for example, George W. Bush was next to the Twin Towers with an Acme plunger. No, I'm not that kind of a conspiracy theorist. But when Alex Jones said, look, you are going to be corralled into social media ghettos and lose your right to speak, he was right. He's right about a lot. And I will say this, he's been wrong about plenty. I am not here to defend everything that Alex Jones has ever said. I'm willing to defend everything that I have said on my program. But that man is exactly who you would expect him to be. He's a friend of mine. And when everyone else tucked tail and they ran, I'm not going to do that. I'll tell him he's wrong. I'll tell you where I think he's wrong. But that man has a right to speak, just like I believe you have the right to speak. And Pierce, if you think they're not going to come for you, oh my word, do you have another thing coming? And I hope that you don't. I genuinely hope that you don't. Well, I mean, I've had people say that I was a hate speaker because I said soccer was gay. I do. I think so.
You think soccer's gay?
Homosexual, yes.
You know what? That's a whole other debate, Stephen Crowder. Let's have a debate about whether soccer is gay. And if it is, by the way, I would be happy to embrace its homosexual side.
Well, I know you would. I know you would. But with that accent, you have to be careful. People take you seriously. I think it's great. I think it's great if you're a 6-year-old girl or a homosexual from Greece, to quote Nick DiPaolo.
Yeah, you know the difference in our football and your football? We don't wear helmets to protect ourselves. We're real men over here.
You also don't allow contact.
We're real men over here. There's no great padding or great shoulder pads and helmets. We just get stuck into each other. And that's the difference. Americans
and Academy Awards.
You like to wear helmets and carry guns. We just use these guns. But that's a whole other debate as well. Stephen Crowder, got to leave it there. It's been a good debate. I've actually enjoyed the tone of this debate. I think it's a really interesting.
He said, we like to carry these guns. I appreciate having the ability to carry this gun and carry that gun. Not just that. Because the person that got this and you just got that, you have lost. But I enjoyed that dialogue. That was a good dialogue. Stephen Crowder didn't hold back. He didn't hold his punches. Still did it charismatically, but directly. because you know Piers will take a bit of information and he'll run off that. There might have been some change in information that will lean towards what he's talking about, but he wants to only focus on what was said so that he can accuse you of saying this and that, because it brings more turmoil, brings more views to the show. But that was a good dialogue. I like how these interviews be so provoking, and so it reminds me of how to like watching The Breakfast Club years ago. I don't watch that too much anymore because it's a left platform, but years ago it was like the most dangerous morning show. So to see this uncensored show, I like it. I like it. It stirs up the pot, creates dichotomies, you know. So that was a good one, man. That was a good one. I've been looking to see that one for like a week now. So finally got to see that one, just to see the whole thing about the whole Sandy Hook. And, you know, I'm hoping that this video passed, because they said some couple things in there that we don't say in our videos, but we're gonna see. I'm gonna upload it. Hopefully this don't, you know, I mean, it's on Piers' page, but I don't see why not. We're gonna see. If you see it online, then it made it. If you don't see this message, then it didn't make it. All right, man, like, comment, subscribe, don't take a note. I'll be commenting in the section below if you want some more. You gotta go.